Hello and welcome to the Remedy Fibers podcast, a podcast about knitting and crochet hosted by me, Jillian. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returner, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today we have some finished objects. I actually have an update from last week's video, the Frog It or Fix It series, a potentially new handspun sweater that I'm thinking about casting on, and some fun fiber updates. So if you're interested, stay tuned. But if you're new here, I live in Northern California with my husband and dog Benny. I love everything yarn related and I hope you stay for my yarn journey. So let's get into my finished object. This is the Love Note by Tincanknits. The sleeves are perfect. The ribbing is perfect, the body perfect, and I'm so happy with it. I just love how it fits. Everything that was kind of like a little mistake here and there got puffed up in the blocking process. I love the length. The reason why it took me about 3 weeks to finish was because I modified the sleeves so it could be full length sleeves. I also modified the body so that it can go past my jean length. So the yarn that I used was 2 skeins of fingering sock by Cascade Heritage in the gray colorway. And then I also used 2 skeins of mohair in the red bank colorway of Chelsea Yarn Mohair. And I love it. It's very subtle in the colors, but it's very vibrant, I think, with the mohair addition. Very fuzzy. The mohair doesn't bother me at all. It could be that I just kind of got used to it, or I'm more accustomed to when I originally thought it was too scratchy. But I've been wearing this all day, I want to say for about 5 or 6 hours, and I haven't had any discomfort. The only thing, it is a really warm sweater, so I have to make sure I wear it on a cold day versus wearing it in a hot day where I'm sweating. But today it is cold, so it's perfect for its debut. The size that I made was a size small. I do have a bust of 34 inches, so there is some positive ease, but not too much. And then the sleeves are pretty fitted to my upper part of my arm. I felt like I should have decreased a little bit so that the ribbing can be cinched in, but I'm still learning how to modify sleeves to fit what I like and my preferences. As I mentioned, the only thing that I modified were the length of the sleeves and the length of the body so that it could fit my measurements. The sleeves did grow a little bit, so I'm glad that I can kind of hold on to my sleeves. It's like a little comfort blanket. So overall, I would 10 out of 10 recommend this. I would definitely knit this again, and I feel like it is a cost-effective pattern. So something to think about when you're thinking of price and trying to be cost-effective for an affordable but luxurious looking sweater. If you watched last week's episode, I started a series inspired by YoungFolkKnits called Frog It or Fix It, where I decided to either completely take out patterns that I no longer like or fix them so that they can fit and actually wear them in my day-to-day life. So one of them I actually started and finished, and this is my year-round Popover by Melissa Georges. So this is how it looks. What do you think? It's still a little damp because it is a thicker weight of yarn. It's still drying, but I wanted to show it to you, and I'm so happy. I had enough yarn to elongate the body, like I said, and I'm thinking of getting some more wool because the sleeves are perfect where they're at, but I actually want them to be a full-length sweater. It is a very thick sweater. It is very warm, so I want it to truly be a sweater so that I can wear it in the winter season. So let me try it on for you so you can see how it looks now. Hoping you can see it, but as of right now, this is where my jeans end and this is where the sweater lies, and I added about this much of length. This is where I cut it off, and you can see that with the crop version it still was hitting at the jean level, but I didn't like that. I didn't feel comfortable, so now it's about maybe 4 inches longer than what I previously used. So I'm so happy with it, but as I mentioned, I want this to be a regular length because here I'm warm, but then here I'm cold, and it just feels like it should be a normal length sleeve for what I'm looking for and for my comfort level. One downside about this yarn that I use, it is scratchy, a little itchy, so I am gonna have to wear maybe a long sleeve under it, something under it, just because as I was knitting on it, it has like these little prickly hairs and it kind of feels a little irritating. It doesn't feel like mohair, it feels like you're kind of getting like a little pinch of wool as I was working on it. So that's the only downside to the wool, but this is hand spun. I did make this yarn. It does look a little wonky, the colors are a little bit off, but it's an ode to my first hand spun sweater. So I think with the blocking process it did smooth out any kinks, any weird bunching, but there's so much different weights of yarn in this sweater. There's a 3-ply at one point, there's a 2-ply in another, there's really thin parts of wool, there's really thick chunky parts. So this is going to be like my mismatch, a whole bunch of randomness in here, but I am still really proud of it, and I'm happy that I'm able to modify it so that it fits and I can practically wear it on a day-to-day basis. I want to say in my journey of making knitted and crocheted garments, one thing is to kind of blame yourself when you finish an object and it's not fitting right, it's not as long as you wanted it, the sleeves are not how you prefer it to be, and to kind of put that blame on yourself rather than the pattern that the designer made was to fit for their body and their measurements. And it's okay if we have to go out of our comfort zone and modify and change things and rip it back and knit it again and rip it back, just so that when we're done with the project we are happy with it and there aren't things that get us upset or irritate us so that we end up not wearing something that we put so much time and sometimes so much money into a finished garment. So that's my advice for you. If you need some encouragement to frog it or fix it, just grab the scissors and start cutting, because you want something that you're actually going to be comfortable wearing more so than something that kind of just sits and collects dust in the closet. So that's all that I have for finished objects. I currently do not have any active works in progress because that's something that I wanted to ask you all to help me decide. So over the weekend I was able to finish my handspun skein. This is from Pan's Garden Yarn, and if you remember, this is an art bat that I picked up at the Lambtown Festival in Dixon, California, and it's so pretty. The more and more that I practice, the more consistent I'm getting, the more fun it is. Maybe because it was combed and carded, it was so easy to draft. I was literally spinning for 2 hours straight. My wrist was stiff from drafting and pulling. So this was so addicting. I would 10 out of 10 recommend you go to Pan's Garden Yarn. She has a Etsy shop. I would definitely be buying more art bats from her. So I love the Stellina in here. You can see that it is pretty consistent spin, and for the most part I noticed that my spinning is getting better, because after I would soak it, let it dry, it would still twist on itself pretty severely. And the more that I spin and the more that I practice, you can still see that there's some spin in here, but for the most part it's hanging pretty straight. So that means that it's more evenly plied, more evenly spun. I wish that I bought more, but this is the only one that I bought from her. And so I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, what am I gonna make with this? Of course I can make a hat, but that seems a little bit easy, a little bit on the more boring side. So I was trying to decide what could I actually use this for. It looks like there's a lot of yardage, but remember, it's a little bit on the thicker side. When I measured how much wraps per inch this may be, most likely it's DK. There's going to be some fingering, there's going to be some sport, a little bit of chunky and thin, but for the most part I checked the beginning start of the yarn and the end start, and both were coming out as DK weight. So what I struggle with is when I spin for fun. I don't really spin for a project, I don't really spin for a weight, so whatever it comes out, it comes out. And that's where I have a hard time trying to make a sweater, because these skeins I'm about to show you, they might be worsted, they might be Aran, they might be fingering, they pretty much any weight you can think of are mirrored in these skeins. So before I show you the yarn that I'm thinking about using, I was actually trying to find something to prop my fan on so that I can dry my sweater, this one and the other one I showed you. And so this is a book that's in my cabinet. So I was looking at these colors, and don't these three skeins mirror the book cover? So I actually haven't read this yet. It's a mystery thriller, but I haven't really been in a reading mode. I've been in a knitting and crochet mode. So I was thinking of using these three skeins to make a sweater, and that's where I need your help. So all three skeins are hand spun by me. They're all different weights, different yardage, and I feel like that's okay because this year-round popover has different weights, different yardage. It has the same skein, but because it's hand spun, it's gonna vary throughout. And I don't really care about that because after you block it, I feel like it's cute and still wearable. So I was trying to get some inspiration on Ravelry. I was thinking maybe Pinterest. I saw some color work. I saw some color blocks. I saw some striping. So this photo kind of reminded me of using the year-round popover and maybe incorporating these three colors in little stripes all throughout so it could kind of be blended. So I was also thinking about this picture where it can be big color blocks, maybe having the light pink be the first part, the magenta color in the middle part, and then the brown on the bottom part. far, but I have to be careful because I don't have a lot of yardage. I have a lot of yardage of this one, and I can always get more of the brown, but I'm gonna try to see if I can just work with what I have rather than purchasing more wool. And then I was also thinking with this picture right here, this is actually a second contender, the Caramelli sweater by Vera, and so maybe thicker stripes. I'm not a big fan of this one. I'm kind of leaning towards more of the thin one line stripes, or maybe something more on the color block. So let me know, what do you think, how I can use these colors best so that it doesn't look tacky, it looks a little bit stylish, a little bit modern, but also so that I can have a fully handspun sweater without trying to get non-handspun in the mix. One thing I also wanted to mention is I do have this brown roving. It has some little bits of different colors. You can see some pink and purple in there, and I said if I run out, maybe I can use this to incorporate in a stripe or use this somehow, but I'm having a really difficult time spinning this. It's not easy to draft. There's little pieces of sari silk, I want to say, that kind of get clumped in. So as you're in a routine, everything is going well, you get like this big chunk, something like this. That's not a good, it kind of looks like this big clump. It's really hard to draft. It's not fun. It's really unpleasant. I actually really dislike spinning with this, but since I have it, I'm just gonna use it and make the best of it. So let me know if you think I should incorporate this in the project or just finish spinning it and figure what I will use for in the future. As of right now, I am not enjoying it. I actually spun a lot of this. I left it in my craft class and forgot to pick it up, so it's long gone. So I don't have too much of this, but I'm happy about that. As for life update, this past week there was an initiative to promote sheep, as well as how sheep can be our nature's natural lawnmowers. And so there was a call out for anyone who spins to come bring their spinning wheel, come spin with the sheep, as well as a general education for anyone stopping by to kind of see how we utilize sheep's wool to actually make yarn with. So I went during my lunch break, and it was the first time that I actually spun in public. It was so nerve-wracking. I got there and almost wanted to leave, but I'm glad that I was able to set up my wheel, spin a little bit, and it was really fun to hear people say how impressive that was, or how my yarn looked like cotton candy. And it also was a push to get back into spinning, because over the summer I kind of take a break, but I realized how fun it was, how relaxing it is, and I was able to finish up this skein, not at the event, later on in the weekend, but it was my push to get started on spinning again. This upcoming Friday I'll be visiting an alpaca farm. I'm so excited to see the alpaca babies, and I'm thinking of getting some alpaca yarn to kind of make this little cowl right here. It can go over a little jacket, especially as we're in that transition weather where it can be really cold or really warm, or you need something in the middle to kind of wear under a jacket. It looks like a sweater, but it's kind of just keeping the neck portion of our area to be nice and cozy during this weird weather season. It's really cold, it gets hot. This week is going to be 70, even though it's been in the 40s. So the weather is really strange. I'm sure it is where you are as well. Before we go, don't forget that this Saturday is Small Business Saturday. Let's keep our local yarn shops alive, thriving by supporting them. I'm going to be trying to visit and support some of my favorite yarn stores nearby, but it's really hard for small businesses to compete in this economy, especially with Amazon and big box yarn stores. So if you can, definitely go out this Saturday, spend your monies on some local yarn, and have some fun knitting this upcoming weekend. But that's all that I have for this week. I hope that you enjoyed today's content. Let me know down below, what do you think I should make with this? Color block, stripes, year-round popover, anything you can think of that I probably haven't mentioned, just so I can put this handspun to good use. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you and your family are happy, healthy, and safe, and talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.